Welcome to today's session of Cosmic Explorer. The Mahabharata is not just an epic but a reflection of human life, cosmic principles, and eternal truths. To truly understand its depth, we must first know the key characters who drive the story forward. In this lesson, we will explore the lives, personalities, and the roles of these extraordinary figures. We will see how their decisions, strengths, and flaws intertwine with the epic's larger themes of dharma, karma, and fate. Each character represents archetypes and values that remains relevant even today. Let's embark on this journey to uncover the stories and lessons hidden in their lives. We will begin with the starting point of the epic, Shantanu. In the depths of ancient India, where gods walked among men and kingdoms rose with divine grace, there lies a tale untold to many but profoundly impactful to the epic narrative we call the Mahabharata. A king whose life was a delicate balance of love, power, and sacrifice, setting the stage for the monumental events that would unfold for generations to come. Have you ever wondered how did the great lineage of Pandavas and Kauravas begin? What monumental love story, what grand sacrifices could have possibly led to the birth of these legendary families? Meet Shantanu, the man who set everything in motion. His life was one of celestial encounters, profound love, and powerful decisions, the ripples of which were felt across the fabric of time. Shantanu was not just a ruler of Hastinapura, he was a symbol of the struggles every human heart faces between desire and duty, between self love and sacrifice. Shantanu's journey was nothing short of remarkable. He was a king who first laid the foundation for the Kuru dynasty's glory, a dynasty which would witness not only the heroic exploits of the Pandavas and Kauravas but also their tragic downfall. Born into the royal Kuru lineage, Shantanu was destined to be great. The choices he made, the loves he pursued, and the sacrifices he demanded, everything had far reaching consequences that will echo through the halls of Hastinapura forever. Stay with us as we unveil the remarkable journey of Shantanu, a man who loved deeply and sacrificed greatly, yet whose weaknesses sowed seeds of destiny that would ultimately lead to a colossal conflict, the Mahabharata. Let's dive deep into his story, his decisions, and the legacy he left behind. Our journey begins with the birth of Shantanu, a prince born into the prestigious Kuru dynasty. His birth was no ordinary event. From the very beginning, Shantanu seemed destined for greatness. Born to King Pratibha, he was named Shantanu for his calm and peaceful nature, qualities that were so vivid in his demeanor even as a young child. The blessings of celestial beings foretold that Shantanu would be a ruler whose legacy would endure far beyond his own lifetime. Shantanu's early years were marked by a deep curiosity about the world. Raised amidst the grandeur of the Kuru kingdom, he was trained not only in the art of warfare but also in the nuances of administration, diplomacy, and compassion. Unlike many rulers of his time, Shantanu demonstrated an affinity for fairness and justice even during his youth. He was beloved not only by his family but also by the people of Hastinapura, who saw in him a beacon of hope for the future. From an early age, Shantanu felt an inexplicable pull towards the Ganga river. The river's serene beauty had an almost magnetic effect on him, as if calling to something deep within his soul. It was as if his fate was tied to the flow of this sacred river, one that would later become a defining part of his life and legacy. As Shantanu grew, he was molded not just as a warrior but as a king who understood the value of peace and diplomacy over conflict. His father, King Pratipa, was a wise ruler who ensured that Shantanu was well versed in both the arts of combat and the responsibilities that came with royal authority. These early teachings laid the foundation for Shantanu's future reign, a time when he would face profound challenges, make difficult choices, and ultimately shape the destiny of the Kuru dynasty. Join me as we explore the next chapter when Shantanu's destiny intertwines with divine love and the choices he makes take him from being a king to becoming a legend in the annals of Indian mythology. Shantanu's life took an unexpected and mystical turn when he encountered the enchanting figure of Ganga, the goddess of sacred river. One day, while wandering near the river banks, Shantanu's gaze fell upon a woman of divine beauty standing by the Ganga. There was something ethereal about her, a mysterious allure that seemed almost otherworldly. In that very moment, Shantanu was captivated. It felt like destiny, as if all of his childhood fascination with the river had led to this one encounter. Overwhelmed by her grace, Shantanu approached her, and with each moment spent together, he fell deeper in love. Ganga, with her calm demeanor and deep soulful eyes, reciprocated his love. She agreed to marry Shantanu. But there was one condition, a condition that would forever test his patience and commitment. Ganga made Shantanu promise that he would never question her actions, no matter how inexplicable they seemed. Shantanu, driven by his love and the prospect of being with her, readily agreed, unaware of the price he would eventually have to pay. Their marriage was like a dream at first, and soon Ganga bore him children. However, this divine love story took a dark and tragic turn. Each time they had a child, Ganga would take the newborn to the river and drown it. Shantanu was heartbroken, yet, bound by his promise, he remained silent. He watched, powerless, as seven of their children were taken from him. The agony of these losses began to weigh heavily on Shantanu's soul. Finally, when Ganga was about to drown their eighth child, Shantanu could no longer remain silent. He broke his promise and confronted her, unable to bear the thought of losing yet another innocent life. Ganga then revealed her true identity and explained that the children were divine beings who had to be released from a curse. Though she left Shantanu, she entrusted him with their last child, Devavrata, who would later become Bhishma, the most revered warrior in the epic Mahabharata. Thus ended Shantanu's divine love affair, a beautiful yet heartbreaking chapter of his life that paved the way for the birth of one of the greatest warriors in Indian mythology. This was not just a story of love, but of pain, sacrifice, and the beginning of an extraordinary legacy. After Ganga left, Shantanu was once again alone, yet his duties as a king continued. One fateful day, while hunting near the river Yamuna, he came across a beautiful fisherwoman named Satyavati. There was something magnetic about her, an aura that captivated Shantanu instantly. She was no ordinary woman. She was destined to alter the course of Hastinapura's history. Shantanu was entranced and wanted to marry Satyavati, but her father, a humble fisherman, set forth a condition that no king could easily accept. Only if Satyavati's son would become the heir to the throne. Shantanu, though deeply in love, was caught in a dilemma. How could he dishonor Devavrata, the son he had with Ganga, who had been raised with the rights and responsibilities of a crown prince? It was here that Shantanu's son, Devavrata, made a choice that would define his very identity. He approached Satyavati's father himself. Devavrata vowed to renounce his claim to the throne of Hastinapura so that his father could marry Satyavati. But this alone was not enough. To ensure there would be no future conflicts, Devavrata took an even harsher vow of lifelong celibacy. This formidable vow of self sacrifice earned him the name Bhishma, meaning the one who takes terrible oath. Shantanu watched this unfold with a mixture of pride and profound sorrow. On one hand, his son has displayed unmatched loyalty and selflessness. On the other hand, Shantanu knew the sacrifice Bhishma was making would leave an emotional void that could never be filled. Moved beyond words, Shantanu blessed his son with the boon of Ichha Mrityu, the ability to choose the time of his death. Acknowledging the magnitude of the vow Bhishma had undertaken, this moment changed everything. Satyavati married Shantanu and a new chapter for the Kuru dynasty began. But in gaining Satyavati, Shantanu felt he had lost something invaluable, his son's happiness. The vow Bhishma took would echo through the halls of Hastinapura for generations, leading the way to both its glory and its ultimate turmoil. As Shantanu settled into his role as the king of Hastinapura, his reign came to be known for its prosperity, fairness, and stability. The kingdom flourished under his leadership, as Shantanu was not just a figurehead but a true administrator, deeply connected with his people. His reign marked a golden age of peace and abundance, with Hastinapura emerging as a central power of ancient Bharat. Shantanu was more than just a ruler, he was a wise statesman who understood the value of diplomacy, compassion, and the delicate balance of power. His subjects held him in high regard because he genuinely cared about their welfare. He would often step beyond the walls of his palace to meet the people of Hastinapura, listening to their concerns and solving their problems. This level of empathy made Shantanu deeply loved and respected by all. The king's strategic acumen also played a key role in ensuring that Hastinapura remained powerful and secure. He worked tirelessly to forge alliances and maintain peaceful relationships with neighboring kingdoms. Shantanu was adept at handling both the affairs of his court and the diplomatic intricacies of regional politics. His decisions were guided by a strong moral compass. He valued fairness and aimed for justice in every judgment he passed. Yet, beneath this image of just and wise ruler, Shantanu carried the weight of personal struggles that influenced his governance. His emotional attachment to his loved ones often swayed his decisions. The impact of his love for Ganga and his later passion for Satyavati lingered over the way he ruled, adding layers of helplessness to his otherwise strong leadership. His deep love for his family sometimes led him to make choices that prioritized personal bonds over statecraft, decisions that would have consequences on the future of Kuru dynasty. Despite his vulnerabilities, Shantanu's rule left an indelible mark on Hastinapura. He was a ruler of balance, one who navigated both the responsibilities of kingship and the complexities of his emotions. His story as a ruler is one of wisdom blended with love, strength laced with vulnerability. Join us as we explore how these elements eventually influence the fate of Hastinapura and led the Kuru dynasty toward a destiny of great trials. Shantanu, for all his strength and wisdom, was still a man of deep emotions, emotions that at times guided his decisions more than rational thought. It was this vulnerability, this struggle to balance his personal desires with his responsibilities as a king, that ultimately sowed the seeds of future turmoil for the Kuru dynasty. One of Shantanu's greatest weaknesses was his overwhelming attachment to love. His deep, unwavering affection for Ganga had already left a lasting mark on his soul. When Ganga left, Shantanu found himself yearning for companionship and comfort, something he saw in Satyavati. His desire to marry Satyavati, despite the conditions her father set, created a chain of events that would forever shape the future of the Kuru lineage. The burden of his love fell heavily on his son Devavrata, who made the ultimate sacrifice, renouncing not only his claim to the throne but also taking a vow of lifelong celibacy to ensure his father's happiness. Shantanu's decision to allow Bhishma, once Devavrata, to make such a tremendous sacrifice, though made from a place of love, ultimately weakened the dynasty. It deprived the Kuru family of legitimate heirs directly descending from the pure lineage. Instead, the heirs were born from Satyavati's lineage, which introduced complexities that led to political instability and eventual conflict. These emotional decisions, though made in good faith, were a double edged sword. On one side, Shantanu was driven by a genuine desire to see both his son and his beloved Satyavati content. On the other, he failed to foresee the consequences that would ripple across generations. The infighting, the throne disputes, and the eventual division of the family, leading to the Mahabharata war. Shantanu's weaknesses, his inability to detach his emotions from his duties as a ruler and dependence on love, had a profound impact on Hastinapura. These seemingly simple decisions were like seeds planted in fertile ground, which eventually grew into chaos that would shatter the kingdom. As we move forward, we will see how these weaknesses and sacrifices bore consequences far beyond what Shantanu could have ever imagined. As Shantanu grew older, the weight of his choices began to take a toll on him, both as a ruler and as a father. The sacrifices his beloved son Bhishma had made for him were never far from his thoughts. The realization that Bhishma's sacrifice, made out of love and loyalty, had cost him the chance for personal happiness and an heir of his own brought Shantanu a deep sense of regret. Shantanu's relationship with Satyavati, once full of hope and passion, had gradually become more about duty than love. His heart still carried the sorrow of Ganga's departure, and he struggled to find peace within himself, even as the kingdom prospered. The responsibilities of the kingdom were increasingly managed by Bhishma, whose commitment to Hastinapura was unwavering. Bhishma had become the true pillar of the Kuru dynasty, a role that Shantanu both admired and lamented, knowing the cost his son paid to take on such a responsibility. In his final days, Shantanu saw glimpses of what was to come. He foresaw the challenges that awaited the Kuru dynasty, the disputes over succession, the lack of direct lineage, and the growing tension among his descendants. As much as he tried to reconcile his past decisions, the echoes of his love for Ganga and Satyavati remained as reminders of the emotional choices that had shaped Hastinapura's future. When Shantanu finally left the mortal world, he did so peacefully, but not without the lingering weight of what had transpired. His passing marked the end of an era, one that was defined by love, sacrifices, and the heavy burden of leadership. Bhishma, who had held his father in the highest regard, mourned Shantanu deeply. Yet, with his father gone, Bhishma stood alone to uphold the kingdom. committed to preserving the Kuru legacy and all that Shantanu had hoped for. Shantanu's legacy lived on through his descendants, yet the seeds of conflict that were sown during his lifetime would eventually culminate in the great war of the Mahabharata. His life was a reminder of how even the noblest intentions, guided by love, can lead to unforeseen consequences, a lesson that shaped not just a family but an entire epic. As we draw the curtain on the story of King Shantanu, we are left to ponder the deeper lessons his life imparts. Shantanu's journey was one of profound love, heart wrenching sacrifices, and a desire to balance personal passions with his duties as a ruler. Yet, in his pursuit of love and loyalty, Shantanu laid the very foundations that would one day lead to the devastating conflicts within the Kuru dynasty. The story of Shantanu is more than a tale of a king. It is the story of a man torn between heart and duty. His overwhelming love for Ganga led him to make promises that weighed heavily upon him, ultimately costing him dearly. His love for Satyavati drove him into making compromises that directly affected the fate of Hastinapura. Each decision, made with the intention of preserving happiness, ended up planting the seeds for future conflict. One cannot ignore the sacrifices Bhishma made for the sake of his father's desires. A vow that ensured Santanu's happiness, but at the cost of the rightful heirs to the throne. The chain of events sparked by Shantanu's choices led directly to disputes over succession, political manipulation, and the infamous rivalry between the Pandavas and Kauravas. Shantanu's story teaches us a crucial lesson that even the noblest of intentions can lead to unforeseen chaos when emotions cloud judgment. His life serves as a reminder of the delicate balance a leader must maintain between personal desires and the welfare of his people. It shows us that sometimes the cost of love and loyalty is higher than we anticipate, affecting not just us but the generations that come after. As we reflect on Shantanu's legacy, we are left with a thought provoking question. Was Shantanu's love his greatest strength or his ultimate weakness? What if he had chosen differently? Would the fate of Hastinapura have been altered? Share your thoughts with us and join the conversation as we continue to explore the epic tales of Mahabharata.